Welcome back to the Cisco Certified CyberOps Associate Essentials webinar series, where we unpack what you need to know to get ready for the CyberOps Associate certification exam. Today is episode 3, where we'll cover network intrusion analysis and security policies and procedures. Like last week, please go ahead and start sending in your questions now via chat, and we'll answer them as we go along. We'll answer as many as we can, and any unanswered questions we'll transcribe afterwards and include with the on-demand video. My name is Joanna Gardner, and I'm a product marketing manager for Cisco's certifications and training program. 2 of our expert panelists from last week are back with us today. We have David Major, who is the manager of our product marketing team, and we have Anna Rubin, our manager of exam development. And this week, we have a new panelist as well, Krishan Veer. Krishan is a technical leader and developer advocate for security at Cisco DevNet. Prior to DevNet, he was an engineering manager with the Cisco Security BU, developing Cisco Firepower Next-Gen Firewall. In previous roles at Cisco, he has been part of the corporate dev team focusing on collaboration technology strategy and acquisitions technology diligence. Krishan holds an MBA from the Johnson Business School at Cornell University and a Master of Science in Computer Engineering from Wayne State University. As a Pacific Northwest resident, he loves mountains and enjoys running, biking, and snowboarding. Krishan goes by the nickname Veer, so that's how you'll hear us refer to him. So please join me once again in extending a warm virtual welcome to our panelists. And to kick us off, I will toss the ball over to David Major for a quick review of the CyberOps Associate certification. David?
All right. Thanks, Joanna. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And I hope everybody's staying safe. I know these times are a little bit crazy, but it's great that you could join us. And I think we have some great stuff for you today. So if you've attended any of these past few webinars that we've had 2 now for CyberOps, or any of the ones that we've had previous, then you most likely know that Cisco CyberOps Associate is the 3rd of 3 associate certifications that Cisco offers. The first being CCNA, and the next being DevNet Associate. Now, the program didn't always look like the way you see it on the screen, which is really streamlined and aligned to 4 clear levels of certification. In fact, if we just went back a year ago, the CERT program looked remarkably different with multiple CCNAs, and we even actually had a CCNA CyberOps certification. The point is there was a lot going on, but the good news is now is we've completely redefined the program, and the best part about it for now for you is that this past February is we completely launched a new Cisco certification program, which we feel like makes it a lot easier to figure out what you want to do. And yes, we've redesigned the Cisco Certified CyberOps Associate certification, which we're going to talk about today. Next slide, please. So Cisco Certified CyberOps Associate is completely updated and aligned to follow the same format that we see here used with CCNA and DevNet Associate certifications. It features 1 exam, the 200-201 CBROPS exam, and 1 course, Understanding Cisco Cybersecurity Operations Fundamentals. Now, the Understanding Cisco Cybersecurity Operations Fundamentals course is just one of several ways you can prepare to take the 200-201 CBROPS exam. And we'll talk about a few of those different options in just a few minutes. Now, at the 20,000-foot level, the CyberOps Associate Certification and Training Program covers on these 5 key knowledge domains: security concepts, security monitoring, host-based analysis, network intrusion analysis, and security policies and procedures. And today we're going to really focus in on those last 2 that you see there: network intrusion analysis and security policies and procedures. Next slide, please. So unlike its predecessor, CCNA CyberOps, which was kind of a standalone associate level certification, the good news is we now have an entire CyberOps certification track with 100% focus on all things CyberOps. If you attended either DevNet Day or Cisco Live virtual events over the summer, you may know that we expanded the CyberOps cert track to include a specialist, professional, and eventually an expert level certification. Now, CyberOps specialist and professional level tracks are scheduled to roll out in November, and you can find more information about them on cisco.com or on the Cisco Learning Network. Cisco Certified CyberOps Expert, that's still a ways out in the future, so we won't go too far into it today. And again, the focus here is on the associate level certification. Next slide, please. Now, I'm not going to do too much of a deep dive here because we want to focus again on all things Cyber Associate today. But to give you a better idea, the certification track follows the same models that you saw on a couple slides ago for CCNA, as well as on DevNet Associate. The key focus areas here that you want to look at for CyberOps Associate, again, are threat management, security orchestration and automation response, and security incident event management. So just, you want to focus here on those three key areas on the right for cybersecurity. Next slide, please. So let's just do a really quick recap about Cisco Certified CyberOps Associate. Again, we've simplified the program. It's one comprehensive exam and you're certified. The course is available in both e-learning and instructor-led formats. It might be a little bit tough right now to find an instructor-led version of the course, but we have it in virtual instructor-led format and again, as I mentioned before, in e-learning. Cisco Certified CyberOps Associate validates your skills with the fundamentals of CyberOps skills and procedures. This is a first of its kind Cisco certification for Security Operations Center or SOC analyst roles. And it's built for today's associate level job roles in cybersecurity operations. Next slide, please. So you're probably asking yourself, how can I prepare, especially during these unprecedented and challenging times? Where can you get information that you need to study? And the good news is I'm here to tell you a little bit about this, as well as my colleagues are. The first thing I want to let you know about is a kickoff for something that we're having on October 5th, and it's called CyberOps Prep. And you may know this, you may not know this, but it's Cybersecurity Month in October. And we're presenting to you what we're calling, again, CyberOps Prep. And that's kicking off on October 5th, 2020. And that includes access to exclusive resources, webinars, and tools. And this gives you an opportunity to learn with other folks that are going through the program. And finally, you'll be able to maneuver through exam topics with subject matter experts. So they'll be there to help you. Now, the best part about this, or at least I think this is the best part, is this is completely free. And you can sign up for it right now. Just go to www.cisco.com/go/CyberOpsPrep. That URL, once again, is www.cisco.com/go/CyberOpsPrep. And we'll be able to share that with you in the question rooms as well as after the event. Next slide, please. So in addition to the CyberOps Prep program, we also offer courses. I mentioned a little bit earlier in the presentation the CBROPS course, and we have that available in the Cisco Learning Network store. Now, here's something that I think is pretty cool. You can purchase the course in an e-learning format along with a 200-201 exam voucher. So you can get both of those together and you can save 15%. And that's available through the Cisco Learning Network store. And again, I'm not asking you to memorize that kind of crazy looking URL there, but we'll provide all of that information at the end of the call. So don't worry if you're not able to scribble these things down right now. It's just to give you the know all that it's there for you. Again, it's the CBROPS course in e-learning and the exam voucher together for 15% off. I mentioned before the CyberOps Prep program that's going to kick off on October 5th. Again, the URL there is www.cisco.com/go/CyberOpsPrep. I mentioned before also it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and on October 15th, we're going to have a Cisco chat dedicated to cybersecurity, again, about these programs. And you can find that again through our Twitter or at learning@cisco.com. So 2 ways to find that out. The chat's going to take place on October 15th. And last but not least, I mentioned before, there are instructor-led training versions of these courses. The best way to find that is to go to www.cisco.com/go/VILT. And you can find not only Cisco that's offering it, but a lot of our learning partners that offer the course as well. So if you're not interested in taking it in a self-learn e-learning format, we also offer it in a virtual instructor-led format. Next slide, please.
David, could we actually pause here for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea, Joanna.
And could we go back to the previous slide? Just super quick. Thank you. So we have some questions coming in from viewers, and I'm actually going to kind of combine 2 viewers' questions into one bigger question that I'll bring to all 3 of you. I think we'll go first to David, and then Anna, and then to Veer. And the question is really around where to start. We have all these resources, but people are saying they're interested in the field of cybersecurity, but where do you begin? Which one of these is the place to start? And so that part of the question I think I'll bring to David and Anna, and then the follow-up to Veer. People are wondering how difficult it will be to transition to cybersecurity from other fields, such as system integration in mobile core is one viewer who's looking to transition into cybersecurity. And we have another viewer who is a graduate electrical engineer currently working on a master's in telecommunications engineering. So we'll start with David and Anna about where to start, and then we'll go to Veer for how difficult the transition would be to come into cybersecurity. So David?
Yeah, so I'll go quick because I know exactly how I want to answer this. And I say all roads start at Cisco Learning Network, which is a great resource at www.cisco.com/Cisco, I think it's Learning Network. Double check that. I may have got that wrong, but I think you can put in Cisco Learning Network and it'll come right up. And that's a great place to start. As I mentioned before, there's blueprints there, there's study guides there. It's almost like it's like a social network for studying. It's not just CyberOps, it's everything that Cisco offers, but it's absolutely, in my opinion, the best place to start for cyber operations. Anna?
Anna,
Hello?
you're on mute. Your line is muted.
Thank you, Joanna. We are getting ready to jump into this next section about how to prepare. So hold tight and you'll see a lot of these resources as we present in the next section. But the real key to knowing when you're ready is to be able to assess where you are now and understand how much knowledge you need to gain to be able to get to the certification stage. So we're going to try to walk you through that so that you can really do that self-assessment and determine for you, do you need something that's big, a full course, or are there just a few areas that you need to brush up on? So hold on, let me jump to Veer to answer his part of the question, and then we'll jump right into these steps on how you can prepare.
Yeah, so Joanna, someone who has done electrical engineering, hats off to you, because I took the easy way out and did computer engineering because it's too much math. So you are already technically, in my opinion, if you're working in the area of networking, if you have a lot of concepts built around operating systems, in general, you have a lot of knowledge. You have built some concepts around like applications, how do the applications interact in different layers. And I think somebody you mentioned is from the mobile area as well. That's important. You already know a particular domain, so which is very important to protect. So transitioning from those areas is easy, in my opinion, to cybersecurity, because you will be skill sets. They won't out. You will bringing them with you, and you will add on a bunch of little more skills to yourself. And certification is one of the good ways to go, because if you don't get opportunity at work to do hands-on experience in these skill set, you probably, when you do this tutorial or you interact in your study groups, when a certification probably gain that knowledge, because these courses, they come with labs. And so you are not just reading every day and out, you actually interacting and you're learning with hands-on experience. So it's the great way to build.
Great, thank you. David, back to you.
Yeah, next slide, please. So I'm going to go quickly through these so we have plenty of time to get into the deep dive into the webinar. When you're ready to take your exam, the great thing now, at least as far as taking exams goes, is you can take everything from the convenience of your own home. Pearson VUE, which is our testing provider, they offer online proctored testing available for all Cisco certification exams. And they're available right now. And the good news about it is if you want to go ahead and get an exam voucher, like say you wanted to get it tomorrow knowing you wanted to take the exam in the next year, you could get it now and you wouldn't have to worry about using it for the next year. And this is a great way to save time and money. You don't have to worry about going into any office or a testing center. You can do everything from the convenience of your own home. And to find out more information about that, you can go to www.pearsonvue.com, or you can also find that information on the Cisco Learning Network. Next slide, please. So I'm going to leave you with this before I turn the virtual floor over to Anna. One of the other great things that we offer now is different ways to recertify. And this was only something available when you were at the CCIE level before. Now you can recertify. Again, you have to be certified already, but you can recertify at any level of certification. So whether you're at the CCNA level, which would include CyberOps Associate, a specialist level, or CCNP, you can have recertification options now where you don't necessarily have to take the exam to recertify. You can do it that way, but you can also complete what we call continuing education credits. And there's different activities that you can take to complete that. You can attend a Cisco live training session, live or virtual. You can author content, complete online training courses like the ones that I just mentioned, or complete instructor-led training. Now, you need to complete that within 3 years of the date that you do that kind of activity, but it's a great opportunity that's offered to everybody at any level of certification, and you can mix those up as well. I won't try to complete this URL or say it, but again, we'll offer that up to you so you don't have to write it down right now. But recertification is really a cool way to go and continue to keep your certification active without going to have to take the exam. Joanna, or do we want to answer any other questions, or should we pass it over to Anna?
Let's pass it over to Anna with this question. This is a very specific question that's come in for Anna. And the question is, will the CyberOps Associate exam require exam takers to perform live network traffic capture using Wireshark and interpret the results of the dump captured during the exam?
Thank you, Joanna. You can move to the next slide. Let me answer this question. You will be presented either with a Wireshark file or a PCAP file that you are given a scenario and you're going to have to know how to extract files from a TCP stream. You're going to need to know what steps are necessary, or you're going to be presented with something that may be in process that you have to make determinations about. As we move forward and have the opportunity to really spin up some virtual machines for you and experiences for you, we'll actually give you that hands-on experience where you can go in and do that. But when the exam launched, and now, we don't have that capability. So you'll be presented with things that you will need to analyze and make determinations about to answer questions around. So how do you prepare? As I mentioned earlier, you're sitting there, you're somewhere in your certification journey. You're either at the beginning, or you've begun to study already, or you may already have another certification and you're looking to acquire this one as well. Jump to the next slide, because this certification and every one of Cisco's certifications has a blueprint that's available for you to view that tells you what this exam is based on. So that blueprint is very important. You need to look at that for whatever exam you're taking. Not only does it tell you what you need to know and be able to do to pass this exam, but it also gives you information to share with employers or colleagues once you do earn your certification. Because what it shows is when you have your certification, we have certified that you have the knowledge and skills needed to perform the tasks on the blueprint. And that's what a blueprint is, a grouping of tasks that are divided into categories, which we call domains. You'll see those here in bold. And then under each of those domains is a list of tasks that you need to be able to perform. So what you need to do is you need to look at that blueprint and run through it. Each of these tasks begins with a verb, an action that you must perform. You either have to describe something, compare something, apply something, analyze something, interpret something, okay? Each of those verbs tells you the depth of knowledge you need on that task, okay? And if you think about it, these grow on each other. If you'll jump to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about that. At the very basic introductory level, we have at the bottom here, describe. That means to understand something's functionality or its features, its purpose, or how it works in a network. Okay? Those are entry-level, basic understanding of facts, concepts. Okay? So when you see something that starts with describe, that's as deep as you need to go. You need to ask yourself, do I understand this? Do I understand this concept? What are its benefits? What's its functionality? Okay. Then as you grow and move and build on that knowledge, you get to the level of what we call apply. That's configure something, interpret. You need to take all that knowledge and put it together in a new situation and actually be able to do something. Okay, so that's a deeper level of knowledge. It requires more processing in the brain. We call that cognitive complexity. It's a fancy word, but it just means what has to happen in the brain to understand that, to actually do something. Okay, so when you see concepts like that, tasks like that that start with those verbs, that's a little bit deeper. Then you move up to the next level of troubleshooting, analyzing, evaluating something. So now you have to understand how all the parts work together in that process or product or something that needs to occur. You need to be able to separate those parts to see what's broken, to determine if something is working, or to analyze if it's reaching its intended goal. So that requires a little bit deeper knowledge. So when you see those tasks, especially analyze, evaluate, or troubleshoot, that's where you need to study the deepest. That's where you need to go a little bit further and make sure that you really do understand everything there is to know about that topic. Okay? And at the highest level, which you will not see any of at the associate exam, is to design and create something. That's to build something new from all of the information that you know. Mostly on this exam, you're going to have these first two levels, describe and configure. That's the apply. So when you sit down and you look at that blueprint, okay, that'd be the first thing I'd do. I'd go through those tasks and I'd say, can I describe this topic? Can I configure this? Can I analyze this? And if you can, you just check it off. But then you're going to come to those topics where you think, wow, I may understand that concept, but I certainly can't apply it. Circle that, because that's going to tell you exactly what you need to study to be prepared for the exam. You know, I like to say this, there should be no surprises when your exam happens. When that exam is launched, we're not out to trick you. We're not out to get to some corner case that, you know, somewhere down the road you may need to know. If you can perform those tasks on that blueprint, you should pass the exam with flying colors. And we want you to be really ready for that exam and confident when you go in that you've got the knowledge you need to pass it. So jump to the next slide. Where can you find this blueprint? David hit on it, the Cisco Learning Network. That's your first stop on our web pages. Once you get there, you'll choose the exam that you're looking for. And in this case, it's the CyberOps Associate. It's exam 200-201. When you get to that page, you can download the blueprint. On the bottom left, it says exam topics. That's where the blueprint is. You'll also see some study material, some opportunities to look at webinars, videos, discussion boards that are out there with other candidates preparing for the exam. There's a wealth of information on this webpage, and all of it is for free. So if you have a specific topic that you're looking for, go online and search for that topic. You may find a video or a blog or a white paper or a webinar that someone within Cisco has done on that very topic. Of course, you can jump to the next slide, because if you want something more comprehensive, oh, I'm sorry, this is about the training videos. This is what they'll look like when you get in there. But at the next slide, we'll show you there's a full course that you can actually register to take. Now, this one is not for free. This one you're going to have to pay for. But this is a lengthy course that covers every topic on the blueprint. So if that's what you need, a more comprehensive view, an understanding of everything, if you're just starting out at the beginning, then this course may be the thing that you need to jump into if you've got the time to really dive in and dedicate to learning this full body of knowledge. Joanna, did you have something to say? I think I may have cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off, but we do have an interesting question.
Okay.
It's slightly off topic, but I think maybe let's just bring it up anyway.
Okay.
We have a viewer who is wondering about the relevance of automation in terms of automating the mitigation of cyber threats. And so if we could just take like 1 minute
Sure.
for Veer to comment on that, on automating the mitigation of cyber threats.
Sure. Yes. So I hope you guys can hear me. So automation is important because if you look at the difference between the network world and the security world, in networking, we create networks, we design them, we spend a lot of time in designing them. Once they are set, we implement them, and then we just tweak for efficiency. In security, it's cat and mouse game. The threats are evolving. They are becoming more sophisticated. They are very well sponsored, and they're doing very targeted attack. So that means every day, pretty much, we have to tweak and tinker our security posture. And without automation, that's not possible. And now we are no longer in castle and moat. We are not perimeter security. Our applications are sitting in cloud. Our users are everywhere. We have different types of devices coming into our network. So the controls need to be automated in terms of deploying it faster and analyzing it faster. So that's why automation makes a lot of sense, because it is a matter of scaling. We are looking at threats in count of millions. And so if we don't automate, we can't scale, and hence it's very important part.
Great, thank you. So to sum up, automation is essential, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
And more and more workflows we will see going forward getting automated in operations field, especially in security.
Great, thank you. Anna, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's jump to the next slide. I shared this slide last week if you were with us, but I want you to know now is the time to jump into the cybersecurity field. There's always a time at the beginning of almost every career and every profession where the job opportunities outpace the number of qualified candidates. And now is that time in cybersecurity. So if you're out there looking to upskill, to change careers, or to jump into and start a new career that's got huge growth potential, cybersecurity is that field. We anticipate that by 2021, there'll be 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity, and that will continue to grow. So what we're talking about today couldn't be more relevant. And I want to encourage everyone out there that's even considering this, that it is a very attainable goal, and certification is your mechanism to quantify and qualify your skill set and to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. All right, let's jump into the technical stuff. That was my little sales spiel, because I don't want anyone to ever sit back and think, is this going to help me? This, more than anything right now in cybersecurity, is going to help you. So what is this exam? This is a 120-minute exam, has about 100 questions on it, and it covers 5 domains. So these are those topics in the blueprint under which these tasks fall. Over the last 2 weeks, we've touched on the first 3 domains: security concepts, security monitoring, and host-based analysis. And this week, we're going to jump into network intrusion analysis and security policies and procedures. And we have no better person than Veer with us to help tackle these topics and give you a deep dive so that you can leave today feeling a little bit more prepared for your exam. Let's jump into the next slide. I want to talk about network intrusion and analysis and what those tasks are on the blueprint. Okay, as you can see here, there are 10 tasks on this blueprint in this domain. Now, if you just scan down through these tasks, you'll see that the first 4 have the verb compare, okay? When you're comparing something, you need to understand the functionality of both of those products or both of those processes or principles, and you need to know how they compare to each other. What would be the advantage of using one over the other? What would be the limitations of recommending one or following one practice instead of the other? Or what advantages does one offer that the other one doesn't? So this is a little bit above basic understanding. This is understanding 2 things and being able to compare the functionality, the purposes, or the advantages of one of those over the other. So for these first 4 topics, you're going to see we're comparing impact and no impact for certain items. Okay, those items are like false positives, false negatives, true positives, true negatives, benign. And Veer's going to dive deeper into that when we pass it over to him in a minute. 4.3, you're comparing deep packet inspection with packet filtering and stateful firewall operation. Again, 2 things, 3 things, you're looking at how they compare and what they can do and what their advantages may be. You're comparing inline traffic interrogation and taps and traffic monitoring. That's pretty simple, understanding those as well. Or comparing the characteristics of data obtained from taps or traffic monitoring and transactional data. That'd be net flow and the analysis of network traffic. So in those, that's the depth of knowledge you're looking for, just a little bit above that basic understanding. Then if you look down to the next 5, those are higher level words: extract, identify, interpret, okay? That's where you need to actually be able to put it together and do something, okay? So when we're identifying the key elements in an intrusion, you're going to be given a PCAP file, and you're going to be asked to identify where the source address is or the destination address, the source port or the destination port, protocols, payloads. That's what's going to be included there. In 4.8, we're interpreting the fields in protocol headers as related to intrusion analysis. So that would be the Ethernet frame, IPv4, IPv6, UDP, TCP. Those are the subtasks that fall under that. 4.9 here, interpreting common artifact elements from an event to identify, an alert. Okay, so that'd be IP address, client and server port identity, API calls, hashes, processes, whether it's a file or a registry, things of that nature. So these are the things you need to think about when you're looking at whether you feel like you have enough knowledge on that. And I'm going to bump it over to Veer real quick because I know he wants to deep dive on a few of these and really help you see how they not only apply to what you're doing every day, but really what knowledge you need and how deep to get there. Veer?
Yeah. Thanks, Anna. So next slide. Yeah. So I'm just picking up randomly a topic. The first one itself, I thought I will pick it up because it's kind of touch point on everything in the whole section. The events can come from multitude of sources, right? So for example, it can come from firewalls or the IPS, intrusion prevention systems, or it can come from DHCP, AAA. It contains useful information. For example, something very simple like for DHCP server, it contains information about MAC address and what IP address is assigned to it. So if you look at it, you can get really good information about a particular PC on your network. NetFlow can look at the session data. It can look at like the whole 5 CPU, statistical data, who's the top talker, who's the top host. And it can tell you a little bit about, like, for example, if malware is sitting in your network, it is doing 20 bytes per 20 milliseconds to a geolocation which you never do business with. And suddenly you have collected a lot of NetFlow data. There is a host which is doing this behavior, right? So even if it is a 0-day attack, which complete obfuscation is done by the malware, it was able to get into your network. NetFlow data can provide you that insight that why this host is pinging 20 seconds, 20 milliseconds, 20 bytes outside my network to a geolocation which we never do a business with. So that type of identifying that, firewalls can provide you session data. What are the connection events which has happened? Now next generation firewalls can do deep packet inspection, and they can actually figure out about even applications. Now next generation firewalls can also have a context. So they have a user context. So which particular host has what user is using that host, and that context helps tying application, user, and bringing the whole picture together. And so figuring that piece out is extremely important. So these are different sources which generate different types of data, and how do we interpret that data is what we are looking for here. So if we go to the next slide, we can look at some of the examples. So over here, if you look at this example, this is a data which is coming from our firewall, Cisco next generation firewall. And this is a management center. This is a separate manager which sits not on the firewall itself, but outside, and can manage multiple firewalls. So it is looking at probably multiple fire events generated from multiple sensors. If you're coming from IPS, IDS world, you probably is aware of that terminology. The sensor terminology. So I'm coming from that world because of firepower. So I use sensor terminology, but it can be next generation firewall. And so it is collecting these events. So you could see that currently it is in a mode where it is allowing these events, but you could see that clearly that there is events generated about domain lookups. You can see there is particular regional IPs which we have some rules on to highlight or generate events when the connections are made to those geographies. So we kind of highlight that the connection made to those geographies. So understanding this log, understanding this looking at, you might see some questions in exam where there is a log presented to you, and then you have to interpret the question as Anna mentioned. The next slide we have NetFlow. So NetFlow is, as I mentioned before, it's a network protocol, and it was developed by Cisco, and it has become, by the way, standard now. And it is used for collecting IP flow information, but it's an important part of the security forensic area as well, or when we do the loop of, or we go in a loop of incident response, or we are doing active threat hunting. It doesn't matter what our workflow is, NetFlow provides a lot of insights, and it's been extensively used. All routers, switches, firewall, all are capable of generating this data. And so right now you are looking at our kind of like a dashboard solution, which we call StealthWatch Enterprise, its output. That actually collects the NetFlow data and represents it beautifully, so we can understand some context about the data. So if you look at it here in this figure, you will see that 10.3.120, if you look at the host, at port 80 is actually, there is a sync flood attack happening where using the port 80, and probably it's HTTP based. So interpreting that data is going to be the key. So looking at these examples would help. So next slide.
Veer, may I jump in with a question from a viewer?
Yes.
So specifically about Stealth Watch, and there's actually a couple of questions, one about Stealth Watch, one more in general. Viewers are wondering if the exam is going to require using Cisco products like Stealth Watch, or
No,
will, like for instance, with NetFlow, would they be using Wireshark instead? Um,
no. So in your blueprint, if you what Anna covered, she did not mention any Cisco technologies. This is not a CCNA, CCNP, or CCIE based exam where you have to be exclusively masters of Cisco products. This is more general exam, and you might see I'm using examples here. I don't have access to the actual exam blueprint, so I just went ahead to my what I had on my disposal. For example, Cisco Firewall or Cisco StealthWatch Enterprise. So I took those snapshots and showed it to you. That doesn't mean that this is exactly what you will see in the exam, and I will let Anna answer in that context as well.
Sure, Veer, you're exactly right. This exam is targeted at the SOC analyst.
Yeah.
And we are looking to make sure you understand what is necessary for that job role, that you have the knowledge and skills needed to perform in that job role. And so a lot of that is understanding these processes, these techniques, these basic fundamentals. It's not about Cisco technology at all, but more about the knowledge and skills needed to really be a SOC analyst and be successful and effective within an organization.
Yeah. And that's why, to not send the wrong message, I kind of tried my best to cut the product names out on my snapshots. I just wanted to show the data. If you have never looked at it, I just wanted to show you that's how the data looks like. But representation may be different because I'm using a specific, so I don't want to send that wrong signal. Any more questions, Joanna?
Not right now. Let's carry on. We'll have some more questions.
Right. So the second part, I think, which Anna started like mentioning about these terms. What is the so false positive, false negative, true positive, and then we see true negative and benign. Benign is very easy. It's something which is not going to do anything. It's very easy to interpret that. For example, if you do a domain lookup, you think there is a malicious domain, and you tell Umbrella that, hey, what's the disposition on this domain? Let's say, for example, track.cz. It's track bicycles in their office in Czechoslovakia, or sorry, Czech Republic, or in Switzerland, and you didn't know what this is, so you just put it in an Umbrella, investigate, and try to look up the domain. Like, so Umbrella will say it's benign, it's completely safe. They have no reason to believe that there is something malicious about it. Or you ask VirusTotal the same question, it's a domain, so it will return benign. These terms are very important. They're contextual. So in IPS world, if you look at false negative, is something which is unacceptable. False negative generally means that a malware, you had a signature for malware, and truly the malware came through and you did not identify it as a malware, and you let the attack go through. That's bad situation to be. So that's the term you should be very careful about. False positives are like you're using, a user is using a Chrome browser or some other browser, and that browser is identified as attack, right? So it's create false positive, it creates an alarm. What false positives, if they go really high up, what they do is they create chaos, because you have to deal with false alarms all the time, and your efficiency goes down as a team. So it's not a desirable state. True positive is a desirable state in terms of like there was an attack and you identified clearly it is an attack. Your IPS signature fired and it identified. So it's a good thing. That's what you want all the time, your firewall or your IPS system to do. And then true negative is like nothing bad happened and no alarm went on, right? So that's kind of a situation where signature was there, nothing happened, nothing bad came through, nothing happened. So so contextually learning these terms and then figuring out where to use them, how to use them is important. Next slide, please.
So this
So
brings us
Anna, do
back
you
to the
want to
next
quickly,
domain. Oh, sorry, Veer, go ahead.
calling that if you want to quickly describe this a little bit, that would be great.
Oh, sure. So this is domain 5. This is the last domain in the blueprint. It's about security policies and procedures. Okay. The key in this domain is really the incident response plan and incident handling. So at the beginning, we talk about management concepts in the first task. So that's asset management, mobility device management, patch management, vulnerability management, really understanding the function of those. And then we move into describing the elements of the incident response plan. So that's understanding what's included there. Is the incident team in place within your organization, or roles and responsibilities clarified so that everyone knows what happens as a incident moves through each of these steps? Then we're going to actually have you apply incident handling process. So we're going to give you some examples of scenarios that may be happening and ask, at what step is this? What action needs to be taken at this step? Is this where you're collecting logs, or is this where you're mitigating an attack? And understanding the flow and how that happens. Elements of the, basically, incident handling. So what's going to happen? Do you understand what happens at the preparation stage? What happens at detection and analysis, contamination, eradication, recovery, all the way down to post-incident analysis and how that works. So again, you'll be presented with some scenarios. You'll need to understand what step you're at and what occurs during that step. Then we'll move down to 5.6. Veer's going to dive a little bit deeper on this one. But these are evidence collection order, data integrity, data preservation, volatile data collection. A lot of those concepts and what those are, what their function is within an organization. Then moving into profiling. For 5.7 and 5.8, we're looking at network profiling and server profiling. Again, identifying these elements. So it's a little bit higher than just describing them, but understanding what total throughput is, session duration, ports used for network profiling. Then for server profiling, we're looking more for listening ports, running processes, running tasks, applications. And 5.9, really how data protection works in a network. PII, PSI, PHI, how protecting your data and what types of data are protected is what you're going to need to know there. Then 5.10, Veer's going to dive deeper into that. We're looking at intrusion events. And then the relationship at the end of SOC metrics to sort of scope analysis. So Veer, I'm going to let you jump into 5.6 and 5.10 and really give us some meat there.
Yeah. So next slide. So just one thing I wanted to mention is that when you look at this section, it kind of looks intimidating because there's these big standards from National Institute of Standard and Technology, which is being put there. So I would not say that you should get intimidated by these big terms. Basically, what I understood from Anna is that you need to understand the concepts in them and how you apply those concepts on the SOC side of the world. And so that doesn't mean that you should be like going and consuming the whole standard and you should know it by heart. It's mostly like what are the concepts in those standards. So I picked one of the standard here, which is SP 886. It's about integrating forensic principles inside your incident response. So it's kind of like how do you integrate the forensic science into incident response when you're responding to an incident happen or malware attack happened or something happened. So most of the organization would like to follow certain standards. And so there is one standard which is over here, which probably you should conceptually know it. right? So computer forensics, in my opinion, is a science of identification, collection, and examination and analysis of report. And those concepts are integrated here. So collection would be like data related to any specific event, um, which need to be properly identified. So let's say if some incident happened, at that time, the data related to that event, if you're doing an incident response, then you need to properly identify that data. You need to label it, you need to record it, you need to collect it. You need to maintain and preserve its integrity because it can be an evidence. And sometimes it's legally can be enforced as well, right? Or a lot of times it can be legally enforced. So understanding that concepts, for example, in examination, you're going to use different types of tools. These can be automation tools, or you're using, for example, if you found a file which you think is a malware, you probably want to take it to a sandbox. You're studying them based. You can do either completely automated study and depend on its results come back, or you can do a glove analysis inside the sandbox. Understanding those concepts, we are not asking you to go do those analysis. It's understanding those concepts, that those are the processes and concepts which exist. And then reporting, right? You have to properly gather all this information, all these actions, and then report them appropriately. And so this how do I, so if everyone start doing by their own way, it's going to be very difficult. So hence there is a standard, and that standard tells us how to do it. So that's the understanding concepts of it is important, not learning, if it is 200 page or 2000 page, the whole document of it. So next. So similarly over here, if you look at, there are different techniques to respond to an incident, or there are different models being proposed. I think if you look at cyber kill chain, it's kind of like a simple model, but I think a lot of people, like if you go to Gartner and look for like what does kill chain model means, or if you go and Google it up, you will find different answers to it. But basically the steps are kind of same. The original idea came from the Lockheed Martin, and probably working with US military. But that idea, probably people interpreted it in their own ways and created different terms. But if you look at it, it's kind of same. Like, let's say, for example, if it's understanding basically the ammo of adversaries. How do they come about and do their stuff? And what are the steps they take, right? So I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Ocean 11. If you go in YouTube and say, 5 minutes scene there where George Clooney talks about how they're going to go and do this attack, right? So he kind of lays out the whole plan. So kind of like if you look at this is adversaries lay out this plan. Now it's up to us where in this plan can we cut them off and we can kill the attack. So the plan is like, first thing is that they're going to do recon. They have to figure out what's going on, what's the vulnerability, what type of system you're running, what type of security system you're running, right? So they will do a lot of like poking and figuring out how they can attack you, right? So you can kill right here, right? So if you have very advanced, proactive, threat hunting, sophisticated teams which can look for those things, you can kill the attack right here. But let's say we did not identify them. They went on to the next stage, which is intrusion. They can do brute force attack to get into, or they send some ransomware, spyware, adware, or whatever the mode of transport is. They're going to come through, or basically your employee was bored and working in the office. He walked to the coffee shop and they deploy it over there. It doesn't mean it's the intrusion step. We can kill here as well. I mean, if we are using some techniques, sometime we are lucky, those techniques can catch intrusion and we can kill the attack here. Otherwise, we move on to the next part where the exploitation has happened, means the malware has executed. Now command and control has been established. We can identify here too, like I said, in the net flow data, we can look at it. It's completely 0 day. We completely missed it. The vulnerability they exploited, we were not aware of it. But still, we can actually figure out that on a convicted geolocation, it's active. There is a connection going from our network to area and geolocation in this world where we don't want to do business with. So we can figure that out, and we can kill chain here, right? We can actually take this host and quarantine it and study it. Let's say we pass it through. The next step will be the privilege escalation. There are a bunch of, on a certain host, we suddenly figured out there's a lot of escalated commands getting executed in terms of privilege. So there was a host which never used admin privileges to install anything, now suddenly is using 25 to 30 in an hour. So that is a good indication for us. We can kill chain over there. The next step is the lateral movement. So adversaries, when they're coming in your network, this is where they want to be. This is the step they want to be. This is what their desired state is. They want to be moving laterally, and they have created this infrastructure. They have, if you look from their angle, they have done a lot of investment to reach this state. All right, so they don't want to go out at this stage. So they want to move laterally. So even if you figured out all the things in the back, they already moved on to your IoT infrastructure. They moved on to other places where they can obfuscate themselves, and you can't find them out. So that's their desired state because they have invested a lot. So this is another state where you can start figuring things out, and you can start correlating data, like who are the hosts who are going to the same geolocation outside in your network. So you start doing a lot of these correlations. So for them now, they want to obfuscate. So they want to pretend like they are a benign piece of software, or they want to mimic probably like browsers. So they will start doing like google.com lookups. They will start doing benign domains lookups. They will start to hide themselves as a browser or something else. And then once they are succeeded, they start figuring out where the actual IP is, where the meat is in your network, what is the most important data which they can steal. They will start creating denial of service to the legitimate host or legitimate users. That's when you will figure out that they are pretty advanced. You can kill in this state as well. And if you didn't, then actually exfiltration will happen. They will extract data, and they will transport large volume of data from one geolocation to the other. And you probably can flag that. So this is kind of like a whole process. You could see a loop you can see, which every attack has. You can kill on any state. And that's what they call the kill chain model. Any question, Joanna? So that's all I had.
Yes. Thank you, Veer. Yeah, we do have a few questions, and we're coming up on the top of the hour, but I think we have time for a couple of questions. And this first one, I think let's start with Anna and then maybe go to Veer, and then if David wants to comment also. So one of our viewers says, hi, hello. And the viewer says, I am studying computing and IT, and I'm really interested in cybersecurity. Is this certification enough to jump into the cybersecurity job market? I am 42. I need an honest answer. So Anna, do you have any comments?
Okay, so this certification is focused at the SOC analyst. That is a job within many organizations where you are actually working in a security operations center, analyzing activities and what is happening within your organization. So those are legitimate jobs. This is the certification for that. So yes, jump in. This is a real job, and this will help you demonstrate your skills to earn that.
Yeah, so my Joanna answer would be, if you're already in IT, you're already looking into either networking or you're managing hosts, the endpoints, you already have built a lot of skills which will be required. So like we looked at the blueprint, and you would find there are a lot of places where you already have the skills. So you can prepare for this really well. The skills where you are missing, you can add using the study material and hands-on experience which come with this certification. And then once you get certified, you are confident. So if you have to go tomorrow and interview for a role, you have seen what they're gonna ask. So the confidence is the big thing once you pass the exam, that you can go face those interview questions very easily.
Thank you. Thank you. David, any final comments?
I mean, I think they covered it. That I know we're short on time, but great advice from Veer and Anna.
Well, wonderful. Yeah, we are short on time, so we'll catch the rest of the questions with the on-demand video. And I want to thank our panelists, Veer, Anna, and David. And I want to thank you for all your questions and participation. And that wraps up our Cisco Certified CyberOps Associate Essentials webinar series.
Yeah, good luck, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Send you an email. Pardon me? So we'll send you an email to today's video, as well as all the resources that we discussed. And we wish you all the best as you study and practice, and most of all, as you take that exam. Good luck.